Excuse me.
Excuse me.
You gonna work? Or
Gonna
you
work
just
or
gonna
you
sit
just
there?
gonna sit there?
There we go.
There we go.
Goodness.
Goodness.
Goodness gracious
Goodness
me.
gracious me.
Let's see if we can
Let's see
adjust
if we
some
can adjust
audio.
some audio.
sound weird.
It's gonna sound weird because I have earbuds in, which is really weird. I'm not used to that. So apologies if I sound weird. How is everybody today? Oh no. Ducks.
All the ducks.
All the ducks. My tiny symphony all up and down a city street. Well, trying to feed my mind, it is like trying to sing this melody. Feels like a necessity, so this could be the death of me, or maybe just a better me. Now coming with the timpanis and take a shot of Hennessy. I know I'm not there mentally, but you could be my remedy. Let me play by violin for you. Oh, it feels good. Okay. Let's get some jams in here. Where is... Okay. You know what I don't understand is how to lower the volume on these things. don't understand why I can't control the volume on here. Like, I can't change the audio. I don't know why. Okay. I don't know why it's being the way it is. But the only thing I can actually do for my comfort yes. It's so nice. Oh, look at all that. Beautiful. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. God, I wish I could walk through walls so I could figure out what that is. goes Stardew. Not too bad. By the way, do I sound okay? Is the audio alright? Because, ever since yesterday I've been having audio issues. So, it sounds a little weird. And I greatly apologize for that. It's inevitable. Audio sounds good. Good, 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 good. I was a little worried that everything would sound very awkward. Because I'm using earbuds. Because for some reason, we had a really bad thunderstorm. And the power blipped. And ever since then, I can't get my audio to work in my normal headphones. But these are Bluetooth. So, as long as it sounds good, I think we're fine then. Either way, how are you today? And honestly, we blame our electric company because I don't know if you remember hearing about, God, I don't know, playing Elden Ring. I wish I can get into games like that, and I worry so much because I am not a good gamer or anything, and I would just blow. I would just suck at it. And I worry, that I would just make a fool of myself. So I don't play games like that. And it sucks because I want to get into it. Like, don't get me wrong, I want to get into games like that. But, I just can't. What is going on with my... There we go, that's the one I want. Okay. Well, I don't know if you had heard about parts of... I can't remember if it was Ohio that it happened in, but, the electric company was cutting off power to people in order to reserve on the outages they were having. And it was just so funny that all the outages just happened to be in low-income areas. I suck pretty bad at it. I streamed myself at first, but I felt embarrassed, so I'm doing it off the air. Honestly, that's kind of where I am with it, too, and it sucks, but it's inevitable for me. What plant needs watered? I thought I got them all. Is it this side? Yeah, it's this side. These watermelons never got, or these melons. But I'll be streaming a lot next week. There we go. Because I only work 3 days. And it sucks. But that's the inevitability of it. It's so exhausting. And tomorrow's gonna be fun because our department has no training. We don't go through training. We don't have training. We don't have training. We don't have a training program for our online shopping. So guess what that means? We get to teach ourselves. I have never closed in the department. And that's not late into the night or anything. But I have never had to, like, you don't shut down the department, you kind of just put it on pause. And they don't have any training videos or anything for the department. And so we have a checklist. Now, I'm not going to be the one to be processing transactions because I take longer to learn. And I am worried that the person I'm going to be left with, we haven't been able to get along very well. And I don't think it's anything personal. I think it's just the nature of things. Clash of personalities and such. And I think eventually I think we'll be fine. It's just until then, you know, we don't mesh well. And I'm just a little worried how it's going to span out right now. They just legitimately do not have a training thing for our department. And we begged for one, and we don't have one. So I have to go off of paperwork, which is absolutely sad. You know, I still haven't learned how to run the register, or not run the register, but process over there. And the reason why is because I have to be trained by hand. And it just sucks. Like, I'm like, and I need to talk about good things or fun topics anymore, because it's getting kind of old that I'm talking about the same things over and over again. But that's my life right now. Like, it is. I'm one of those people that needs to be given some kind of formal training. And there isn't one. But okay. Also, I realized my animal mod never went through. Because I don't like how the pigs look. They look so weird. It does, but like, you want to talk about fun things too, right? Like, you want to talk about how... let's see. Like, we could talk about spoilers for Stray. Or we could talk about, like, the implications that the newest Thor movie could have, or the Karen stories that are all over, and learn about other Karens around the world, right? Like, there's other things we can talk about. It's just, these are the things that are kind of taking over my life right now. What's happening with me is that our school's math teacher quit a week before school started, so they asked me to step in. And that was before? Was this before? Like, or is this the same situation? Because I know you're teaching math, right? And you're going to be doing all of that. Is that the same situation? Is that how you got into teaching math in the first place? Because I know you're normally an English teacher. It's pretty tough for me, because this is a new subject for me to teach, and I have no idea how to teach math lessons. Yeah, math lessons are totally different than literature or English lessons. They're not the same thing. And like, I don't know if it's because of the nature of how language is like, we don't think of language as like a math equation, right? In a way, we can't, because of the nature of language. We can't say. Verb plus noun equals action, right? Like, it doesn't work that way. Language is a lot more complicated than that. And it's because you're not taking two basic concepts and then morphing them into something new. Now, the only way that works is like your, you are, and there, like they are. They plus are equals there. Or you plus are equals your. But that's it. That's the only way it works. And it isn't that simple. And it's not, especially comparing the two against each other. Teachers are not getting appreciated enough. They just straight up aren't. And they need more appreciation. And they ain't getting it. Our country's a piece of shit for it. Like, I know a lot of people are like, Megan, that's not true. We live in America. And I'm like, that's adorable. You think our country is good. But like, I can't be completely wrong. Right? Like, alright, where the fuck? There they are. Stop it. Oh, look at him swimming in the river. And the duck is under the leaf. Because they didn't account for that. But like language was never. It's not the nature of language that was hard for me, especially if you're interacting with like an autistic person. The language itself typically isn't hard. The act of language itself isn't difficult, typically. They'll do really well in language classes, typically. The problem always seems to be the way that we are applying that language in an actual contextual context. Finally, another earth crystal. Okay. So, like, it's not something that we aren't good at or anything. It just so happens that when we put it into context of a conversation, we're used to this plus this equals this. And in actual conversations, it never goes that way. Look at the word literally, for example. Like, the word literally got a new translation. It used to mean actual literally, but then it became sarcastic literally. Right? Like, it changed over time. And that will throw off anybody that you talk to who is autistic. Because, like, that is impossible to tell in text. It just is. Textual conversation is a lot harder because you can't hear their tone, for starters. Okay, I'm going to take out this and put the earth crystal in. Everything else can go up. Okay. especially when I was young,
I had that problem.
where
I
I had kids compliment me as an insult.
and it took a
long time
to like
learn how to tell. And to this day, I still have that problem where I can't differentiate sarcasm a lot. And it's unfortunate. I honestly still don't know why it is that way. We don't know why that's a problem, but it is. And it sucks, but it's the nature of things. Because I know a lot of people who are like, I wish I could give you the ability to be able to tell. And that's a nice gesture, I guess. But like, at the same time, my biggest problem with my autism is simply the fact that I can't get a job. Because as soon as they see that I have autism, they instantly like want nothing to do with you. They don't want to mess with the special needs case. And they can't prove it. They can't prove that that's the reason why they don't hire you. They can't prove that. Like, not at all. They can't prove that that's the reason why they won't hire you. There's nothing they can do about that, and there's nothing you can do about that. And so you get stuck in these loops of trying to either not lie on your application, which is really fucking difficult not to for a lot of us. Yeah. I realized that after high school, actually. After I went through high school, I started noticing that my applications weren't going through. And it was weird at first, because I'm like, I wonder why. I didn't understand at the time. So I stopped putting my autism diagnosis on my applications. And then I suddenly realized, I was getting calls. And I was so confused. Like, why am I now getting them? Like, they're not allowed to discriminate. When I stopped putting that I had autism on my applications, I got calls. And that in itself is kind of weird at first, because a lot of the times people don't realize how contradicting the world of autism can be. We're going through a phase right now where we, as a community, have people who are still using the Asperger's diagnosis model when they were diagnosed. And we don't use that term anymore. And there's a lot of us who refuse to use the term anymore. And the reason why was because the guy who coined the term, Hans, I think his name was Hans Asperger or something like that, he, believe it or not, he was affiliated with the Nazis. We're not surprised. So, eventually, later on, they got rid of the term, and that was the end of that. But a lot of people didn't want to use the term autism, and I finally accepted it. I finally was like, you know what, I'm autistic, and in a way, it's still like a backstab to myself and being like, how dare I, like, use a term like that when my sister is farther along, needing more support than I do, and using that term. But yet, you know, at the same time, I don't want the term anymore if it's not scientifically accurate. And so I had to think about that and be like, well, do I want that name attached to me? And at the time, and it's still a question that people have to come to ask themselves, is A, autism a dirty word.
But B
But B is autism
bad,
bad,
right?
right?
Because
Because every single community of whatever their mental struggles are will have an opinion on what it means to have that said disability. And I say that with hesitance because a lot of people do not like it when you call it a disability. Like, don't say what it is. Kind of like, shh, keep it under wraps. It's not a disability, it's a different ability. And what the problem is like, no, you can't hide it. You can't hide that. Like, that is... You cannot deny yourself of the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is simply, yes, it is a disability. Plain and simple. There are people who will take their disability and claim that it's not, and not use the term autism because, well, I'm not as disabled as them. And then it becomes a we versus you mentality. And that's just straight up wrong. Like, to think that that's how this works, right? It's us versus them mentality. And there will be some degree of that, to some degree, because, let's be honest, some people have a disability more so than another. One person might be missing a whole ass leg, and one person might only be missing a foot, but it's still a disability. And the point isn't about, me versus you. The whole point is we have this. And a lot of people who so choose to use Asperger's are being blamed, which I don't know if I fully agree. It's an interesting take, I will admit, that those who are autistic and are Asperger's and don't want to admit the autism name are ableist. Because it's not a proper term anymore. The term's not used anymore. It's not a term that is... Oh, and I just realized it is 1:50 in the morning in the game. And it's so strange to me because I get the point. Like, I completely understand the point. Right? Like, you're saying that you're using a term that's outdated, you're using a term that is linked to Nazism, and I can completely understand where that's coming from. But at the same time, I'm also, like, sitting here thinking, well, I was like that at one point, right? And it was because I didn't want to be compared to my sister. Right? My sister will need more assistance than I ever will need. I'm not her. Just like how someone who's missing a foot is not the same as someone missing a leg, or no matter how you phrase that, missing a leg instead of a foot, one's not any better or worse than the other situation, right? So for somebody to come along and be like, hey, you need a different term because you have it less than somebody else, kind of puts it in a pit versus me versus you mentality. And that doesn't help people. Doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anyone. All it does is it helps comfort the person who's choosing to use the Asperger's term.
And I completely understand.
Okay.
Okay? But at the same time, I'm not gonna judge them for keeping the Asperger's term. It's not my place to make claim to something like that, especially when it's not me who's doing anything like that. Like, why would I make any kind of cast judgment on that? But I understand what they're saying, right? To use a term that was supposed to represent a lesser form that is no longer valid in the scientific field, to suddenly mean that you can't use that term that you've identified with for so long, right? It's kind of throws people for a loop. And it's completely understandable why they won't use the term. It's a new term, and they feel differently than those who are a lot farther along in their autistic experiences. I can't make a judgment call either way. Like, that's not what I do, and that's not whatever I will do. That's just not me. But what I will say on that subject is, like, as somebody who had that mentality, I made that choice to rid myself of the term because I didn't want anyone to compare me to my sister. But then I had to ask myself why. Why didn't I want compared to my sister? What did my sister do wrong? Nothing. What does my sister represent? Herself. What does my sister have anything to do with the world? Her? Nothing. She hasn't done anything to the world or anything. She hasn't treated anybody horribly. She hasn't done anything. In fact, what it wasn't her that I was trying to keep myself compared from, but rather how people treated me. Because I realized going into this that people were going to treat me different and a little bit stupid without even realizing it too. Or they'll overcompensate when I didn't tell them that I needed anything, and they'll overcompensate. And so that's the scary part of it, right? I have to overcompensate. They end up overcompensating on my behalf because of it. So if that's the case, why did I choose to remove myself of the Asperger's name? One, when I found out and double-checked and researched that it was indeed because the guy who labeled the term was a Nazi. And why that's so important is because we have to realize Nazis are bad, punch a Nazi, but it's the reason, right? The reason why he chose to separate the two was between those who could work and those who couldn't. I can work. Plain and simple. Right? I have the ability to work. My sister, not so much. She can. But the thing is, my sister was considered high-functioning autistic at the time, which is also not a term we're trying to use anymore. We're trying not to use the term because it's inaccurate. If Aaron's high-functioning autistic, what's that make me? you know?
And so,
And so,
once
once I was able to finally put that all aside, and finally was able to adapt, I guess is one way we could put it, to what I was being called, what it meant. What it meant on my sister's behalf, right? And realizing that, you know, this was something that was not okay, and still isn't okay today, to separate. And and here's the further point, right? Part of the reason why he was separating the two between workers and non-workers was because those who could work stayed alive. Those who couldn't, they were sent elsewhere, never to be seen again. And when I first learned that, I thought to myself, that is extremely inhumane. Right? Two, that is completely disgusting. But also, I'm supposed to accept that I am somehow better than my sister or something. Or I'm somehow more capable than my sister. And the thing is that I've admitted this to my therapist. Like, we really don't know my sister's capabilities. Like, we really don't. We don't know anything about my sister's abilities or inabilities because she was not given proper resources to explore that after high school. She does not have a therapist. She does not have any kind of, like, assistance to help her with whatever is going on inside my mom's house. And whatever your opinion is on the matter is neither here or there, because at the end of the day, I know she's stressed out for whatever reason. Whether it's mom or not is null and void at this point, because there's nothing we can do about it. And it's not like mom's abusing her in any way that we know of. Erin, bless her heart, is one of the nicest people I have ever met. Almost too nice for her own good. And I remember when I first got the diagnosis, I was sitting in the office with my stepmom at the time. And I remember the first thing I said was, "Oh my God, I am my sister." That's how much of a comparison I made. That we were different enough that I had come to that conclusion that we were the same, right? Because of that diagnosis. And I'm not saying that as like a blow to the balls or anything, because it's not. That's not what this is about. It is something that I still struggle with to this day regarding how I view myself and my sister, because it's not her fault. You know, it's not her fault that these were the cards that she was dealt with. Right? And these are the cards that I was dealt with. To ever think that I am the same thing as my sister is such an oversight on my part, and it's something that I cannot logically remember in the moment when I'm having one of those moments. It's something that I will mentally not be able to fight off in the moment, but as my mind is pretty much normal at this point, I can safely say that me, I didn't choose to go by the autism name, right? I did, but I didn't, because I easily could have used a different name. I could say it's something else. And this is my experience, therefore, why would I change it to anything else? But I didn't, because at the same time, that's the scientific terminology. I didn't choose to have these sets of unfortunate circumstances. I didn't choose to, not understand a concept and then try to remind somebody and then be told that my autism was being used as an excuse. Which was a thing that was actually said to me, that I was using my autism as an excuse. And I I'm not here to talk about autism for the sake of my sister, because I'm not. I talk about it to get people to understand that it's not a simple concept that you can just put a term to and then you're done. It's one of those things that you have to look at yourself and say, okay, this is my circumstance. This is my issue. This is my problem. This is my thing that I was given, and this is why this is the way it is. This is the logistics of it. This is why this thing is a thing, and you go with it. Because you don't have a choice otherwise. You're not allowed to have a choice otherwise. Life says no. And the look my mom gave me when I first told her, yeah, I was diagnosed with it, I think she denies it. I think she seriously denies that I have it. To some degree. But I can't confirm nor deny that. I can just go off of my own insecurity and my own logistics and go from there. She doesn't listen to me. She doesn't understand why I make the decisions that I do, why I can't just calm my volume down, why I don't have control of my volume. It's actually an autism is a neurodivergent thing. I don't have control of my volume. My mom tells me all the time that I'm too loud, and it's actually a neurodivergent thing. It has to do with me not being able to hear my own volume and control my own volume, and it sucks. I can't do anything about it. And people will judge me left, right, front, and center for it. And they'll say, wow, she's really loud. Wow, why the fuck does she do that? And wow, she should know better. Which is one thing you should never tell me. Don't ever tell me I should know better. Because that means that I am a fraud and that I'm gaslighting myself. No. I won't gaslight myself. Because I realize I'm not gaslighting myself when I asked myself, am I just making excuses for myself? And every time I say that, I feel this sense of dread come over me. the sense of like heavy dread. And I can't explain it per se because it's a form of
Oh,
oh, I have another baby pig to worry about. What do I name a pig? I could say piglet. Whew. I could say piglet, but
That's boring.
that's boring. Also, I learned that if I hook up my phone to my computer through link to Windows, little link, little oink, little oink. It's little oink. Not little oink. It's little oink.
I love it.
I love it. What was I going on about? Oh, when I hook up my phone through link to Windows, I can play my phone apps on my computer. It runs a little slow, but I can do it. And I kind of like it. So I could theoretically play mobile games on my phone and stream it that way if I really wanted to. So. Got that going for myself. So I'm still on this journey, right? I'm still on this little weird journey trying to not call myself the same thing as my sister. And that is really fucking hard to do, by the way. It is not easy. It's not easy. At all. Because unfortunately, it sucks. It sucks. And I think that was a really hard thing to first realize was that, you know, Aaron and I are not too different. that
that we weren't
we weren't too different, and yet we are almost, we aren't too different, but we aren't too similar either. Aaron, I think, has something else going on. Else going on top of it, because typically speaking, how do I say this? She gets kind of stuck in her own world, but to a point to where you wonder, like, on a maturity level. Like, she is a lot like a child. But I don't know if that's because of the lack of resources. Or if that's because of something else that was not diagnosed yet. Right? So I don't know her capabilities. Because I have never seen her get the opportunity to do so. Which is really unfortunate and sad, and like, feel like Aaron hasn't had the opportunity to show her full colors. A lot of people say that the job she currently has gives her the opportunity to, see their full true colors, but that's not what I mean. Like, I mean on a, soulful level, I guess. And trying to figure out, like, who she is as a person. And I was like, oh, but she's kind and sweet and smart. And I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. Right? That's not at all what I mean. Okay? Because it's really unfortunate. But when you say a child is smart and you say a scientist is smart, you're not saying the same smart. You're saying that with context of a scientist or with context of a child. So when you say, oh, but she's smart, I will look at you very strangely and be like, she is! And I'm like, oh, that's not what I mean. You're saying that as she's smart for an autistic child. Kind of like that backslap you see of, that backslap that people will say. Like, oh, you're pretty for a... Insert derogatory term here. And it's unfortunate. Like, it really is. I've heard stories of African American women being told that they look pretty for a black girl. And that is the most insulting thing you could ever say to somebody. Like, one of the? Like, shut your fucking mouth. That's not how that works. That means you don't think they're actually pretty. That's like, well, you put a bow on a piece of shit, it's still a piece of shit. But you know what, you look pretty for a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's that derogatory insult. So when people say, like, my sister is smart, I'm just sitting there staring at them like, what do you actually mean by that? Because people don't understand that I understand the context of that phrase. I'm like, and I don't think they do either. I don't think they understand that there is a big difference. Right? When somebody is, like... When somebody is, like, trying to tell you, hey, she's smart or she's pretty, you have to take that into context of like what that person or who that person is, right? If you tell a 7-year-old, hey, you're smart. You're smart. You know, you're saying, what you're not saying is, you're an Einstein or you know how to solve blah, 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 blah. What you're actually saying is, oh, for a child, you are smart. Like, that's what you're saying. You're saying it with enough connotation that you are, without saying anything at all. Right? You end up implying these things. And you end up implying, words that you didn't mean to imply. And then people have to backtrack once you mention that, and they're like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. And I'm like, then what did you mean? And they'll be like, oh, I meant that, like, despite her struggles, she did so well. And I'm like, what struggles? Oh, her disability with autism. I know there's a couple of viewers who are hopping in randomly. I have autism myself. So yes, I have room to speak on this. Just not her experiences. Right? Like, when somebody is saying that, like, oh, but this person has suffered so much, and you're just like, excuse me? Excuse me? Also, the fucking name from Trovo, Destroyer. I'm gonna call you Destroyer. I'm not even gonna say that first bit, because, not about that noise. There's this little secret thing that you imply that people don't think about. And I'm just appalled sometimes. You know, because they'll say, oh, but the suffrages that she went through. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, what suffrages? And I'm like, oh, the struggles she has as an autistic person. And I'm like, again, what struggles? And they're like, oh, I don't know, getting bullied. And I'm like, I got bullied. And the reason why I'm doing this is to get a point across, right? That they actually don't know her. They don't actually know what her struggles are. That's the point. They don't know her actual struggles. And what I do by picking at that, I put them on the sidelines. I get to pick at them to try to understand why they're saying what they're saying. That's it. Plain and simple. I'm trying to figure out why they're saying what they're saying. And it's not hard. It's not hard to piss people off. But it's also not hard to realize that some of us aren't actually struggling with a disability. Like, the only reason I struggle with my autism is because of the way people treat me. Because it's so hard to get a job that it's the reason why I struggle is because of how the outside world has affected me. The autism itself didn't do anything to me. The autism itself has not caused me harm. And they don't want to admit that. 420, baby. They don't want to admit that they are part of the problem, for starters. But they also don't want to admit that some of us are perfectly fine if it weren't for the way that we were treated. And it's so strange, to me at least, because there's like really strange implications, right? There's really strange implications of like somehow I was able to come to all of that conclusion, and yet I couldn't tell when someone was being sarcastic, for example. And it's because people don't always follow the given rules, or you don't know which rule is being applied in a social interaction. Like, I don't know which rule is being applied, just that there is one. And that's the hard part. And it's the part that people don't like talking about. It's why sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't. Sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't. And it's because we've had to teach ourselves. And one of the things that my therapist has like told me is that, if you find a way to communicate and it doesn't hurt anybody, use it. And I share that, I say, you know what, that's absolutely true. I'm going to use this method because I know this method works. And it's so interesting to me how people treat each other, mess with each other, lie to each other. And how that changes depending on who you're in front of. Now, the thing is that I do the same thing. And that is because of the actual power a person has. The authoritative power a person may have. Or their history. But if they don't have that, if they don't have that authoritative power, or if they don't have that ability, then I'm not going to treat you the same way as if someone did. Are you going to have respect? Yes. But there's this weird connotation to it, because people think, well, your position of power is your respect. And that's another thing I've kind of realized thanks to TikTok, is that there's a massive difference between the way that boomers want respect and how respect works versus us, the Gen Zers and the millennials. Because Gen Z and millennials want respect in the sense that, caricature, actual caricature, rather than authoritative listen. I want respect means listen to me, shut up and listen to me. It doesn't mean, treat me kindly, treat me fair, any of those things. It is an authoritative thing. Respect is authoritative. Whereas our generation is like, no, respect is not authoritative. Respect is something that should be the default until proven otherwise. And that carries over to a lot of things. Now, Erin is the complete opposite. She will give respect to anybody under authority. And that's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. But it can be a little bit, unfortunately, off-putting if this person is bad and she's supposed to be nice. She won't. My horse is gone. I just realized my horse is gone. I think my horse is gone.
and so
And so that sense of it's what it actually is entitlement.
right
Right, entitlement
is
is tested
all the time.
all the time.
And again,
It's not a good or a bad thing.
It's
It is thing.
It's
This is just the way things roll thing. And that could be a good and a bad thing. Especially for my sister's sake. And that's the massive difference between us. I can recognize that I'm giving them respect, but I don't feel that they deserve it because they are treating others like scum, and that I'm doing it in a scowling way. But my sister wouldn't recognize that. That she's being given respect, but only because she's being forced to be given that respect. Or that everyone deserves the same amount of respect, regardless of that authority. There is a lot to the way that we perceive authority, but authority is complicating. Authority is very complicating. It is a combat between how a person deserves respect and what form of way does a person doesn't respect. And that can create conflict, especially conflict of interest. A lot of conflict of interest. And that can cause people to do some dumb things, honestly. People doing dumb things sounds about right. Yeah. Yeah. It just I don't understand people, and I say that not only as a person who's autistic. I say that because people are very accidentally manipulative, and I've done my small fair share of that, so I understand to some degree what that means. But what I don't understand is it's kind of hard to explain because a lot of people will say, you know, I don't understand the entitlement, or I don't understand these Gen Zers. Thing is, I do get why they're entitled. They've been entitled their whole lives. No one tested them. That's why they are the way they are. Plain and simple. Right? Done. Conversation over. people don't want to have forethought. They don't want to have that strong conversation with people regarding, you know, the complexities of the human condition, for example. And I understand some people may not be able to understand it, and that's completely plausible. And I get it. What I wish we had was more people who were willing to look at what they did and apply that. I work with kids, and it's sad to see the effects of them on the world they're growing up in. Yeah. And I saw it when I was a kid. I saw it as a kid. I saw the kid who got her, you know, bedroom door taken away. For what? I don't know. Fucking hell, who knows? I seen the kid who, I met a friend who's much younger than me, who escaped sex trafficking ring. Like, she survived that, and she lived to tell the tale. And I've seen people who are nasty and broken and don't want any, and they give mouth to customer service, or maybe they work with us. Right? Maybe they actually work with us and they treat customers like shit. But what I also see is, wow, they must have went through a lot of abuse. Wow, they must have some form of, like, PTSD. What, they must have went through so much hardship. Like, I don't see people talking like that. And it's so strange to me. And I think it's because people don't think abuse is common. And, oh, absolutely it is. It absolutely is. And I don't think people want that, to admit that. Because their perfect world of, you know, their perfect view gets crumbled. I've seen children and it's so strange because there are full-fledged adults who will be like, you know, there's no way that is correct. You're just a kid. You've never experienced life. And the thing is, most of them have. And the funny thing is, they don't even realize they have. Like, they don't realize how much of a life they've actually lived and are telling the tales of it. Because they grew up in chaos. But they had no idea that what they were going through wasn't normal. They have lived a stressful life. I think I've talked about it before. I don't remember much of 9/11 because I was ignorant and stupid. But what I do remember is that I saw that attack on TV. I didn't understand at the time, but now that I'm an adult, I can look back and go, wow, I saw that on TV. And then we lived through 2 financial crises. And then we lived through all of this. Plus whatever my personal life was with my parents' divorce. And divorce gets kind of shrugged off a lot, unfortunately. And it's because, you know, we hear it so much. And it actually is quite traumatizing. And people don't want to talk about it. And people don't want to, you know, admit that they fucked up. And it's like, I hate it when people dismiss kids. You never know what someone's life is like and does someone deserves respect. Absolutely. Like, people dismiss, like, and I don't want to stereotype, but it's an unfortunate stereotype. But children get dismissed. Especially Republican parents, dismiss their kids so much. And I think it's because they themselves were dismissed by their own parents. And so they pass that on to their kids. And then you have the trauma breakers. Right? The trauma breakers who are breaking the cycle and saying no more. People arguably like me and others who are saying we're not going to treat our kids like that anymore. We are not going to allow this to continue. We are not going to allow this treatment to continue. And I'm one of them. I have... Okay, my door is shut. My dad is emotionally neglectful. He doesn't feel he should get a diagnosis for if he does have autism or not. Because I personally think that he could benefit from it. Because we could have a better relationship. Right? As a father-daughter. But he's like, what's the point? What would it do? And he doesn't even realize. He doesn't even realize that it would save our relationship. Because he'd be able to start figuring out what he was doing wrong, and then he could figure out from his end. And it's like, people dismiss children all the time. And it's because they were dismissed as kids. They were dismissed. So they pass that on. Plain and simple, Or you may pass something on that you didn't mean to. And children are supposed to be our futures. And yet we, for some reason, continue to treat our youth like that. And there are debatable things that I'm sure people will have debates on what is good parenting, and I get it. I absolutely do. Everybody has different approaches. Everybody has different kinds of kids. Everyone has different kinds of methods and methodologies and different religious aspects and different history and different ways that their life was affected by the way their parents raised them, and they didn't see a problem with it. I came out fine. No, I will never hit, if I ever have a child, or if I ever adopt a child, I will never spank them. I will never hit my kid. Like, that is so fucked up. And I got a spanking as a kid. Like, I was never hit as a kid. Like, I was spanked. Right? I was spanked. I know what it's like to be spanked. I get that. I will honestly admit that this is hard for me sometimes to not say things like, because I said so. Yeah. And that is hard, right? Because especially the terrible twos. Why? Because I said so. And it's really hard. Because that's not an excuse. Like, I hated that. In fact, I never grew out of hating that phrase. When I got older, it pissed me off. I didn't like when people would tell me what to do and then wouldn't explain why. Because I said so. But, what? What does that even mean? Because I said so. You'll understand when you're older. No, why don't you just tell me now? Why won't you tell me now? And it made me feel like as if they were keeping secrets, or they were betraying me because they wouldn't explain it to me. Now, other kids may not have that problem. And like you said, it is because I was told that all the time as a kid. Yeah, and you pass that on. Because that's all you know, and then that stays with you throughout your development years. And that doesn't mean that sometimes I told you to do this, I told you so, is a reasonable response. Such as, if you told your kid to put the shoes on, and you've told them 4 or 5 times to do it, and you've explained to them that you have to protect your feet, and they still won't do it and cry and still demand an answer after you've told them the answer, that's when you say, I've told you why. Now, I've told you to do so. There are certain things that I need you to do because I can't really explain it right now. It's not something that I could talk about. And at that point, you need to sit down and be like, okay, if this does happen, how do I go about this, right? For example, the no-no square, right? Like, don't touch me there. That is my no-no square. Why? Because mommy said so. I hate to say it, but that's not good enough. Like, that's not good enough. It's because that is a very private part, and that is something that you, as a human being, and as a person, are the only ones to touch except for a doctor. And no one else without permission, even me. Now, this is also assuming that they are fresh out of diapers, right? Like, we've assumed that they are fresh out of diapers, and they're doing their own thing, right? But, like, the I told you so mentality? I fucking hate it. The I told you so because I told you so. No, that's how you create dissonance. Setting boundaries with kids is important, but it's also important that they are reasonable and the purpose is explained. Yes, absolutely. It needs to be explained. And that doesn't mean you just fuck all with it, right? It doesn't mean that you just bullshit it, right? It means that you have to have the forethought to be able to explain something to the mind of a child. And not everyone can, and that's completely understandable. And then I'll get... That's not where I want that. I want that up here. And then you'll get the fun ones. Where, when you're older, right? You're older. You get it. You're learning, you've learned the concept of boundaries, right? And you have strange situations, right? Where you're like, wait, is that a boundary? Right? For example, my mom has told me that I am not allowed to cuss in her house. Is that a boundary? Well, I guess it would depend on, like, your reasoning. And the reasoning is for religious reasons. Because she thinks saying, oh my God, is putting the Lord's name in vain. When it actually is using the Lord's teachings for your own personal agenda. That's saying his name in vain. Not saying, oh my God, oh Jesus Christ. Like, no, you're fucking stupid. That'd be just like me talking and be like, Mom! Oh, my mom. Like, that's not saying anything bad. Like, that's nothing bad at all. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so why would it be bad if I said God? Like, you have to be able to understand that your kids are a lot smarter than they think. And they're a lot smarter than you think. If they come up with a reasonable answer, it is perfectly fine and okay to make an exception with a child if they are very logically found. And it's okay. Hi, kitty. Did you want up? Come on up. She's just sitting there with her paws on my chair, looking up, going, hey, what's up? Come on. Good girl. And like, I,
uh, I
I,
when
here,
oh, honey.
oh, honey, come here, it's okay, honey, I'm sorry you fell. You want back on my lap? Come here. Oh, come back on my lap. The when I see a kid crying in the store, I'm not judging the kid. Like, for some reason, and here's the thing, like, I'm in this weird two-way street with this. And it's just because I don't personally know how I should respond, other than it's a normal thing. Right? Like, this is a normal thing, this happens. And that's that, children scream. It's actually good for them to scream. They need to. It helps get their vocal cords. It helps them learn to let somebody know something's wrong, right? That's what you're supposed to do. But if you teach a child to shut up, it doesn't teach them to alert somebody if something is wrong. That's all it is. Son of a bitch. So, when I see a child crying, at first, I'm usually like, okay, it's not the child's fault. It's not the child's fault. But I swear to the Lord on high, as soon as I hear their parent tell their child to shut the fuck up or something like that, or tell them to shut up, I lose a lot of respect. Because there's a difference, right? You can tell your kid inside voices. You can tell your kid, honey, we're indoors. I know, I'm right here. I am so sorry you have these big emotions. Let's work through them. Instead of shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. You're teaching your kid not to listen to themselves, and not to listen to their body, and not to listen to their emotions, and you're shutting the child down, and for what? Because you're uncomfortable. Thanks, camera. But it's because you're uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable. It wasn't about your kid. There's two very profound things that I have... not to toot my own fucking horn here, but, like, I like to write poetry. And there's a piece that I won't ever, like, talk about until the day my parents die. And that's two pieces... Well, okay, I've talked about it with my therapist, but there's two pieces I wrote about my mom and my dad. One of the pieces, I believe it was Dear Dad, is about, my dad. But one of the things it is, dude, poetry, man. I love poetry. And I loved doing poetry for homework assignments because it gave me a due date. If I don't have a due date, I won't ever do poetry, and it sucks. Because I would love to write again, but I have no motivation in hell to do it. But one of the things I said is some parents forget they fucked and had a child. And that was in reference to my dad. Like, some parents forget they fucked and had a kid. Like, some parents forget. Like, some parents kind of forget that. And I wrote that in my poem about my dad because, damn, I'm not wrong. Parents forget that they fucked and had a kid. No! Goodbye. What? Are they dead? Hold on, I think my headset just died. That is so weird. That is so weird. Can you still hear me? Like, am I coming in loud and clear?
Can you hear me? Okay. Then I'm just gonna keep doing it like this until my headphones charge. Because I don't know why none of this shit is working. In fact, what's really weird is that my computer registers that my Corsair headphones are plugged in via USB. But it's not registering it as an actual usable headphone. But it's wireless and it has a dongle. So, and I can't find the dongle. That's my problem. I have no idea where it is. But like, that's the unfortunate part. About that, at least. This is the cutest thing, by the way, not to... She will sit here and put her chest on my arm and just sit here. Honey, what you doing? You resting your chest on my arm? Cutest fucking thing ever. Hey. Hello, baby girl. Hello, my pride and joy. Mm. It's... The weird thing is that my headphones are supposed to warn me. They're supposed to warn me. And they didn't warn me that they were about to die. They're supposed to warn me when they're dying. They didn't warn me. How dare you not warn me that you're about to die? Why are you resting your butt on my hand? Can we talk about this for a minute? Digital audio, HDMI, that's the TV. Anyway. Oop. Can you explain to me? Now she's doing this. She's resting her butt on my hand. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Are you a goober? She's resting her butt on my hand. Can you explain this? I don't understand cats. Cats are another one. I'll never understand cats. Cats, I love you. You are my pride. Excuse me. You are my pride and joy. I love you so much. But I'll be damned. I don't understand a damn thing about my own cat. Because she's such a freaking goober. What is this? What is this nonchalant bullshit? What is this?
What? Why are you resting your butt on my hand? Can we talk about this? Why are you resting your butt on my hand? Can we talk about this? This is the bull that I work with. Hi, honey. Honey, can we talk about this? Why are you resting your butt on my hand? I'm not gonna get an answer out of her. This is not gonna happen. Anyways, children. I don't personally think that I was ever, like, listened to as a kid. Especially when I started learning how neurodivergent I was. And I would ask very strange questions. And that would throw my mom for a loop. And I don't know. I just, you can tell now that I don't have headphones in, I'm having a hard time forming words because I was with the music and now I'm in silence because I don't want the TV on because then it's going to create an echo. I don't want that. So pardon if I can't get the words out of my mouth quite right. Oh, now you want off my hand. Are you good with your butt off of my hand now? Are we good now? You can look at me with those eyes all you want, honey, but this isn't gonna change anything. I don't know how you think this is gonna make things better or worse, but I can tell you. What I can tell you is that I have lost all sense of the conversation. I hope you realize that. Little Missy. Yes, I'm looking at you. Yes. And now I just want to start fiddling with the audio while I talk. But like, I don't understand fully why. I guess I do understand to some degree why sometimes we kind of get a little bit sarcastic, a little bit mean with kids because we think that they're full of this ignorance. But I'll be darned. Is this gonna work? Probably not. Let's see. I don't know what these Elgato speakers are. But, I've noticed that, like, I don't fully know. Because there has to be some kind of correlation, right, to your... There has to be some kind of correlation to your political party and the way you raise your kids. Like, there just has to be. Because I can't be the only one who starts noticing the difference between the way that one political party raises their kids versus how another political party raises their kids. Like, and I hate doing that. I hate that. Because I've learned you're not supposed to fucking do that. Right? You're not supposed to, like, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. Because that is a 2-band, not a 3, which means I'd only be able... Well, that's not a bad thing, I guess. I'd be able to use them as headphones, at least. But that means I should be able to put them in right here, right? But the way the political sphere works affects the way you raise your kids. And I hate bringing that up because I completely understand that that is not a judgment factor, but there is definitely got to be some sort of correlation, and I hate being that person because, like, obviously we know and understand that political factors aside, you know, should never affect the way that we handle children. And yet, by some strange act of God, that seems to be the case. And, like, I'm not here to say that, like, that's backwards. I'm not here to say that, like, it's completely out of the question. But you have to admit that that is, like, a very common thing. And that's why we have, like, what, Democrats versus Republicans. That's why we have these really weird, affects the way we handle I don't want it coming out of the TV. So, other strange thing about this is that my computer has an audio headset and microphone port at the front of the tower. That doesn't work. Which is strange. Because it should. And there's no rhyme or reason for why this shouldn't work, okay? I'm trying to, like, make that the point. That there should be no rhyme or reason for why it doesn't work. And yet, here we are, having audio issues. And, trying to, like, generalize, maybe is the word, but trying to, like, understand why we do the things that we do.
Hi, baby. What you doing? Oh no, I snuck a kiss from you. What are you going to do? Oh no, I snuck a kiss. Boo-boo-boo-boo. I snuck a kiss from you.
This is the kind of talk that I give to my cat. This is the talk that I give to my cat.
Now I don't have audio coming out of the TV. Oh, back. Actually, honey, this isn't gonna work. You're gonna have to just... trying to check something real quick because ever since the power went out, I have had constant issues. And And every time something like this happens, I always want to get off stream and focus on the problem. But there's not a whole lot I can actually do. Like, honey, I love you. You're a good girl. You want cuddles. But I'm busy. And I have shit to do. So I'm gonna have to ask you very politely, very cooperatively, to get off my lap. Ooh, careful, careful, careful. Careful, careful. We don't want you to get choked. Jesus, Squall. That could have been bad. Yeah, Squall, please. Do not... Oh, I see what's going on. Hold on. One of my drawers is stuck. Ah! There. Ah! Let's see how much. Okay. I think it'll last the rest of the stream. 50%? Yeah. That's weird. Why is it all coming out of the same audio port? No! Why are you doing this to me, computer? Nothing. Why? It's always something. Hey, you're welcome. Thank you for listening to me chat, man. I'm probably gonna go ahead and just close off stream. This is not cooperating with me. I don't know why I constantly have problems with this thing. You take care. Boof.